viewers today. You're most welcome to the Sisters Empowerment Show. As we've been promising you, we have a number of things we are bringing to you. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, to share, and comment, and also contact us in case of anything you want. If you want us to host you on this show, please get in. Today we have an important topic we're going to share with you. We have a chat in pregnancy in Uganda, and of course we have an expert, someone who has been working along this, and she's going to share with you a number of things in regard to teenage pregnancy in Uganda. What are the challenges? What are the things that we have to look out for? Information sharing on this, sponsored by 7 Hub Enterprises, St. Daniela Education Services. We have Urban Events that is helping us in the camera, video, if you need anything to do with video coverage and all that. Do not hesitate to contact us. Let us introduce and invite our guest for today. Like we mentioned, I have, of course, my sister here. The sister called Daisy. You're most welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lillian.
Yeah, and our guest today.
I'd like to welcome you, our dear guest. You're looking lovely.
Thank you.
I know you prepared for our show and our chat with our viewers today.
So let's invite Winnie to introduce herself. You're most welcome, Winnie.
Thank you, Lillian. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you, dear viewers. Hello, how are you out there, the people who are listening to us? My name is Winfred Naigaga. Today I'm collaborating with the Sisters Empowerment Show, Lillian and Daisy, to talk about a topic that is so passionate to my heart, and I believe so many of you have come in touch with, that is teenage pregnancy in Uganda. I am a co-founder of Wanawake Kwanza. It's an NGO that looks at empowering women, and I'm basically looking at women who are in vulnerable situations like these teenage mothers, and see how we could deal with the things that are happening to them, to help them to also, like all the other people enjoying their life, attain their full potential that they should have had if they had not become pregnant. Yeah, so that is what the NGO does, amongst many other things.
When you've just been speaking about that NGO, I want you to speak more about it, what it does and where it is, and then tell us more about what this teenage pregnancy means before we go ahead to discuss it.
All right, thank you. So Wanawake Kwanza is a Swahili word. It means women first. Yeah, so it is an inspiration from the background that I was raised from as an African girl, where in mostly many of the things we are looked as second-class citizens. We come second. And then I'm like, but we can also be in a community where we also come first. So Wanawake Kwanza, that is where we got that inspiration. I came together with colleagues. We are all lawyers. We are young women lawyers, Ugandan lawyers. We deal in so many other different things, but we felt like we could collaborate about things that are passionate to us and do something together, because we know there is power in collaboration, because we are all gifted differently. That is why I, together with my colleagues, one of them is Salwa, another is called Prida, we came together and founded Wanawake Kwanza. We are located in Chiwatule, Nadia, and we deal with mainly empowering women, but basically our target group is vulnerable women. We are looking at girls between the age of 15 and 25. Those are women that we focus on and look at the different things that they are going through. Some of them are teenagers and some of them are young people. We are looking at how they should be navigating life, what are the challenges that they are going through, and what we can do to support them, to empower them, attain their full potential. We do a lot of work on advocacy, trying to speak out about these issues that many we do not talk about in our society, because tubitereka kumpi ebyabakyala ebyo tebisanyusa kwogerako. So we bring out those issues in spaces like here on the Sister Empowerment Show. We bring them out for people to throw it in their face that, look here, we are having a problem. Yeah, so we do a lot of advocacy work. We do research. We research about different issues still concerning women. We do consultancy work. We do a lot of training with stakeholders or even the women themselves about their rights and what they should do in different circumstances. We do a lot of mentoring for those who are in school, or those also who want to attain some skills. We do a lot of mentoring and career coaching for them. We do also we also do encourage motivation speaking, confidence building, confidence amongst women, telling them you're worth it, you can do it, pushing them along. So yeah, basically that is our kind of work, and that's what we do. Our activities are around that area.
So the women are lucky to have such a group and that really takes them through what is expected. Yes, like you mentioned, since we are dealing with teenage pregnancy, and it's an area that has really been, it is so high that we are talking about this topic. And in Uganda, what is the situation like? You know, what is the background about maybe this topic, and why is it that we are here to talk to people out there about teenage pregnancy?
Thank you very much, Lillian. Uganda is a country of young people. The statistics show that 80% of the population in Uganda are young people. They are youth. And also statistics show that 25% of the girls in the country are mothers. The teenagers in the country are mothers. That is a very big group of people. That is a very big number of girls that we are leaving out on the everyday life. They are grappling with having children early on, in the aged 15, they're aged 14, 16. They don't have a skill, they've not finished education, they're not literate. You know, these are people we are leaving out of the agenda. So it's high time we began talking about. It's a very serious issue that should be on everyone's mouth right now for tackling.
Sure. And I think the teenage age group is in Uganda. Once you're 10, you're a teenager, or when you're 15 or something. Maybe some clarification about that so that we really get to understand it clearly.
I think for teenagers, this is just comes from when you become a teen, from 13, from 13 to about 18 to 18. But also sex happening amongst young people does not begin at 13. We shouldn't be like too. Sex is even amongst 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 8-year-olds. So there's so many people we are leaving out, but later on they become teenagers and they have to grapple with this, and they're having sex so early on in their lives. And this is something that in this country we don't talk about having sex amongst children. We do not.
I don't know why is it so. Maybe
Okay, I'm going to look at this topic from two angles, yeah? First and foremost, I'm happy that you're speaking about this topic of teenage pregnancy, because for a long time, actually, as we grew up, we were not allowed to speak about sex. To the extent that even today, adults fear to mention that word, sex. So because of the way we were traditionally raised, I think it has also contributed to children involving themselves in something we think they do not know, yet they're actually experts in this thing. But two, there are also those vulnerable ones who have just been victims and exposed without knowing, yeah? And now I'll move to my second lens of the legal perspective. I mean, from the work I do, as I already told you, I'm a prosecutor. All the cases I've prosecuted, I think 80% of the cases I've prosecuted in my prosecutorial experience are cases involving teenage pregnancy, defilement, yeah, in most cases, because whether the child consented or not, for us, legally, we regard that as defilement. So I think it is a very crucial time for us now to speak about this topic. Why is it very rampant these days? And why is it that we are not speaking about it ably, like we are not projecting out our voices. Instead, we are only trying to suffocate it by trying maybe to say, we shall prosecute the perpetrators. Is that enough?
And telling children to abstain.
And abstain. Is it the reality? Yet our children are exposed to a lot of pornography. Now we are going virtual and online. So you do not have the time to monitor what your child is reading or being exposed to. So I think Lillian and Winnie, this topic is coming in just handy. And I'd like to welcome our viewers to really pay attention, because in one way or another it affects you. You either have a sister, a brother, a cousin, a relative who has actually been a victim of this teenage pregnancy. Or if you have not, but you have children, be on the lookout, because you might be surprised tomorrow when your child is the victim. Yeah.
Do not forget you're watching the Sisters Empowerment Show. Remember to subscribe, to like, to share, comment. Continue watching the Sisters Empowerment Show. So now, since we know that this is an issue that is happening in Uganda, especially in our society, what are some of the effects that are affecting the teenagers in terms of teenage pregnancy? Once someone is pregnant and is a teenager, what are some of the effects really that are out there?
I think, Lillian, before we go to the effects, it would be important to point out what are the causes.
The causes, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the causes like of teenage pregnancy. Because before we go to the effects, people have to understand, why is Daisy's child getting pregnant at 14 years? So that they look out and try to prevent some of these causes. Yes.
Okay.
I could come in there. I think there's something you just hit on just before Lillian came in about the silence syndrome, where we do not talk about this. So people, an 8-year, 9-year hasn't been told that sex happens, and maybe there is some random male or female, because you know, sex is about two people, a man and a woman. So many of the times when we talk about women, we leave out the boys who are also being abused. So there are times where when an 8, 9, 10, 11-year has been proposed to by someone in the community, someone in their household, could be an uncle, could be an auntie, could be the house help, or some people call them maids or house managers, whichever is okay for you. Some of these people that the children live with could propose about sex, and this thing happens to this baby, and the baby does not know and doesn't know who to tell because we've never talked about it. But it's not only the babies, even the teenagers, it's not a conversation we've had we have with our parents. I remember when I was growing up, I think the sex education I got from my mother was when I got my periods. And she was like, oh, now, Winnie, you should not play with boys. I mean, what is play with boys? There's so much I can do with the boys, you know? And then I think the other thing which came from my father still about teenage pregnancy, about sex, was when he took me to a mixed school when I was a teenager. I think I was about 17. He took me to a school with boys and girls. And then he said, oh, Winnie, now you've come to this school, you know, they are boys, don't play around with them. And you know, one thing about boys, even when they buy you a sweet, they expect a payment. For me, that is the sex education I got. I don't remember having a candid discussion with my parents about sex education. So the syndrome, that silent syndrome, that putting it down, it doesn't happen, or we are Christians. You know, most of us have been raised in religious backgrounds where you can't talk about it. It doesn't happen. So the silent syndrome is one of the major causes of teenage pregnancy.
And I think when you talk about the silent syndrome, most of us forget that to put things in reality, because now it is to do with the changes in our physical appearances. And when you're young, for instance, like for girls, there is a certain period when they will start developing breasts. Then others will gain weight, that means the bums and buttocks will enlarge and all that. So you find that maybe at home, someone is even not told that maybe don't allow someone to touch this, and you also have to give reasons as to why. Because for the teenagers and
even to mention the body parts,
they shouldn't touch. Like, don't allow someone to touch your susu, and then you're like, what is that?
Why should they touch? They touch my breasts.
Yeah, and those are kids these days that will ask why. But the time maybe we grew up, you even could not again repeat what you've been even told. But just to let these teenagers and children before even they get to the teenage age, so that to understand maybe some of the reasons why someone shouldn't touch, why you shouldn't maybe be to expose your body, some of your body parts, So that is the silence kind of syndrome that I think we need to bring out with our children. So
I think at this point, Lillian and Winnie, actually as you were talking, I was thinking about myself.
At home.
We parents, actually, we are calling ourselves the .com parents. Yeah? We are all suffering from this syndrome. There are very few parents, even people who are watching out there, who can vividly and candidly call their children, both girls and boys, and talk to them about sex, and actually mention the private parts and say that this is called this and this is called that. And that when a boy and a girl have sexual intercourse, you become pregnant. That's why we've had stories of a child asking, Mommy, where does a baby come from?
The hospital.
Yeah,
where you
see? And that therefore means parents out there, or guardians, or whoever is watching us, please, let's speak out to our children, to the generation about sex. Where does it come in? How does it occur? And what are the effects? So I think we are going to focus on that one cause, among others, besides the pornography, besides the deteriorating cultural practices. Of course, some of them are actual cultural practices that are leading to these causes. But I think failure to speak out is at the topmost, and we always ignore it and always bring out issues like exposure. My children are always on computer. I mean, have you spoken to them about what they are watching?
They're doing.
Yeah.
But also giving them the opportunity to say out what they feel, what they understand about some of those things. For instance, like someone posted, I think on Facebook, that there once in a, I think she took the son to visit a relative. So when the son came back home, he was acting in very funny character, but also there was a case that side that the son had been engaged in with one of the daughters, with someone's daughter that side. But before, that was not the character. But again, what this person did was instead to kind of like punish this boy, deny certain things. But I think there was no time to engage and bring this boy closer to discuss with the person to really find out what exactly could have happened. Because the person could, it could have been maybe a lie or something, but again, you never know, maybe this boy would have been maybe engaged by someone they found that side and all that. So also, much as we want to talk to these children about maybe sex, and you mentioned the acts and all that, but it is also important that maybe we bring them closer so that they are our friends. Even when something has happened, the way you react, you know, you first bring them closer so that you really get the gist of the whole matter, and then maybe you start solving it slowly by slowly, and also finding out ways so that they can be able to understand the repercussions and maybe to avoid further and more engagement in some of those things.
I think jumping in right there, the silence is also being engineered or being made worse by the fact that we are now living in a commercialized world where mother and dad maybe both attending a market stall, or daddy went to Chirombe and there is no tukuba cheyo mami avinze mukatale, and there is no one at home. The children are just there with maybe the nanny who is looking after them, or a relative who is looking after them, and they're also busy with their own lives. So the children are just there, you know, there's no one who is supervising. And also lately, which is different from when we grew up. When we grew up, a neighbor could tell you when you're doing something wrong. Lately, the neighbor, so a neighbor cannot know what is happening inside that house, what is happening in there. The parents are not there, but there is also no supervisor.
And we think those are the safe spaces.
And we think that is space. They are prisons.
The safe spaces are actually not secure for our children, and that therefore leads us to the topic that we are discussing today. Assuming that you have failed to talk to your child, or you've talked to them, but somehow misfortune befalls them and they become pregnant, the girl, So what are the effects of teenage pregnancy?
A girl would stop attending school once she has gotten to know she's pregnant, or once they get to know at school that the girl is pregnant, she will be told to go back home. So chances are high that she will not continue with her education. So if and education is not only the formal one of learning maybe to become a professional person, but also the skill, having a skill set where you're in an institution where they're teaching you maybe to tailor or to bake or to do what. In most of those institutions, they'll tell you to first sort yourself out. And so they will miss school. And because now they are having so many other things that are going on since they become pregnant, going back to school will not be a what? Or attending school will not be a priority. So they will fall out of school, and chances are high they will not learn a skill or they will become professionals in whatever they were going to do. The other thing is that most chances they will be maybe getting sexually transmitted diseases, and these are many. There is hepatitis B, there is HIV, there's so many of them, candida, syphilis, there's so many of them that they can get, which will have an impact on their health, Then, what else?
So I'm thinking that the other effects, you've talked about this school-going child, but there are also those ones who are not going to school, who are staying at home maybe because their parents cannot afford school fees, but that man or boy comes into their life and ruins their life still. But they've been productive in a home, in one way or another. They've been engaged, for example, in housework, they've been engaged in the farm at their home, so they become unproductive or less productive, And sometimes because of that, they become stigmatized, they pull back.
Loss of confidence.
Yes. And there is a tendency for parents actually to sideline them, to look at them as the spoiled one and ignore them or deny them all the other opportunities. For example, if the child, there was lack of school fees and maybe the parents have been struggling, once the girl becomes pregnant, they're like, we are done with you now. Let us go with those ones
who want to go to school.
Yes. So those are some of the effects. But remember that those effects, some of them are physical and others are psychological.
Yes.
Yeah, mentally, this child is still young.
They're not yet ready to be mothers.
Yes. So all these are effects that sometimes we do not look out for to try and address these issues. So our viewers out there, please, as you're dealing with these issues of teenage pregnancies, you know now during this COVID situation, we have had very many children like getting pregnant because they are out of school, they are redundant, they've gotten a lot of exposure, and because of that, sometimes the engagement, you know, when you're close to someone, I'll give you an example. If you're in an office and you're always in close contact with someone, you end up loving each other somehow. I don't know how.
That is proximity in psychology.
So our teenagers out there have gotten pregnant because of this close proximity, maybe with uncles during the lockdown, or relatives.
Uncles, aunties, the shamba boys.
Led to things like incest, incestuous relationship. Yeah. So I think leaving that area.
I would want to add in just a little bit, Daisy, sorry about that, about other effects. Uganda, we are leading in our maternal death rates. So when a 14, a 13-year-old child becomes pregnant, they're not ready to have a baby. So there's so many things that may go wrong, and our hospitals are not equipped to well-serviced and equipped to handle this delicate child. So chances are high we might lose this girl. So because of our incidences with maternal death rates. But then also, if you don't have to die, you might just end up with a life never-ending thing like fistula, which if you don't know, you're not treating. You know, you might just end up like that with this physical, it could be mental like you said, but you could also have a physical effect and live on with fistula. Or another thing that I see is children who are 13, 14 do not know how to look after their fellow children. They don't know how to look after themselves. They don't know how to look after their babies. So we will be ending up with children who are inadequately looked after. The generation of children that they are going to be raising will not be well looked after. And then also, one other thing I've seen in certain homes, if you get pregnant and now you've said that you're looked at as a bad one and what, the end effect is to get married. And you are forcefully. So you get married at 14 and 15.
They say bring the things and we give the wife and the child actually ends up in a, sometimes they are abusive relationship. Other times they're not even ready for them and they do not love the so-called husband.
The early marriages.
Yeah, so the early marriages also have their challenges. Our viewers, don't forget that you're watching the Sisters Empowerment Show that is proudly sponsored by Save and Have Enterprises, located at Ham Towers, 2nd floor, shop number 419, and St. Daniel Education Services. That is a nursery and primary boarding school located in Namayumba in Malangata. So if you're looking for quality education, look nowhere else but at St. Daniel Education Services.
Having looked at the effects, I think now, what can a teenager do to curb teenage pregnancy? After hearing all that, what is it that we can advise our teenagers out there, in addition to the people that stay with these teenagers, really? Yeah, so Winnie, I think you can share with us
what a teenager can do.
Yeah.
I will begin from where our government has really laid a lot of emphasis for teenagers. It's abstinence. You don't have to have sex. Sex is a choice. You don't have to have it. So I'll begin from there. Our fellow teenagers who are listening in, abstinence works. And it's 100%. I mean, it has no effects. It is 100%. So we could begin from there. But then also we could move in to other things which we don't talk about that we can do. Most cases we learn about sex not from our parents, but from our peers, from the people we interact with. And also remember, as teenagers, I don't know whether Daisy or Lillian, you remember when we were teenagers, the hormones are really boiling. You're so anxious. You want to have a boyfriend because your friend has a boyfriend. I remember when I was in school, I was in Trinity College Nabingo. We were so excited when a boy wrote to you later.
When you receive the letter, delivery.
Oh my God, it was so interesting. Now I would wonder, in such an excitement, imagine if the boy was there. What would you do? Chances are high you may end up having sex with this boy. And what would happen? You would get pregnant. But we need to tell you, teenagers out there, you are in command of your body. You do not have to hang out. You don't have to have a boyfriend because your friend does. It's not really fashionable. You should be busy with school and doing other extracurricular activities, but not having a boyfriend. So the people you're interacting with, the choices that you're making as a teenager should be choices that are helping you to move ahead in whatever you're doing at a particular time. If you're learning a skill, focus on the skill. If you're getting a professional course, focus on that. You do not have to end up getting diverted, doing fashionable things and having sex because it's and slaying. Slaying is also okay, but not slaying with a boyfriend and having unprotected sex. So so revise your books.
There is time for everything.
There is time for everything. There's time to have sex in future. You can't finish it. You know, you can revise your books. You can read newspapers. They're so informative. There's so many things out there to discover.
And educative material.
Yeah, you could watch an interesting talk show that is on TV. There's so many of them right now. There's so many things happening on TV, on social media, which are very interesting and very informative. That you
just like the Sisters Empowerment show.
Yeah, you should watch such shows like this. You should
and be productive. Actually, you avoid being idle, because they say an idle mind does what?
It's a devil's workshop.
Yeah, so make sure that you're always productive. You have something useful that you're doing. You're reading educative materials. If you're not reading, at least you engage in household chores. You're actually involving with other people around you. Do not isolate yourself.
You can learn how to bake. There's some
learn a skill.
Yeah, learn a skill. There is some teenager I was talking to who is doing yogurt from home during the lockdown. That's what they are doing, since they can't go back to school and they're tired of revising the books. You know, they're doing yogurt. Someone is making soap. You know, these are things you could do something as a teenager. You don't have to make money at 25 after university. You can even make money while you're still in school. Be business oriented.
And actually, if you start making your money, these boys and men will not lure you and promise you false.
They will not promise you 5,000 shillings for airtime
your whole life. But also, one other point I think is important is, you as a child or as a teenager, you should avoid being in isolated places. Because most times the vulnerability arises because you are alone. For example, this man or boy takes advantage of you because no one else is actually seeing what you're doing. But also try to make sure that you dress decently. Because sometimes the man, or the so-called perpetuator, who is going to come and impregnate you, may not have the interest, but you're making an effort. You're making yourself available, and you're dressing in a very lucrative and seductive manner. So, parents out there, I think this is the time for you to start speaking to your child on the way they should be dressing and where they should be
behaving.
When. You find some of these parents actually sending children to the shops in the night. It is 9 o'clock and they are sending them go and buy tomatoes.
Or in the mall, Kampala parents, the children hang out at the mall with their friends, with lots of people coming to that mall. Some of them are predators. They could go into a relationship with a predator without you knowing. Yes.
And also, one other thing I wanted to bring out is reporting. Having gone through all this, for example, you may not even want the relationship, most times actually, the child has not consented to this sex. But they keep quiet. Of course, it relates to what we've already said,
The silence.
But now, let us speak to our children to report, to speak out whatever has happened to them. Because you will never know that your child was defiled. People will start asking you, what have you been doing? It's the neighbor pointing out, your daughter doesn't move properly. We see the stomach is bulging a bit. What is happening?
May not
And
even
you
know.
don't know, you know? So let us encourage our children to speak out. So children and teenagers out there, speak out to your parents. And the parents, listen to your children. Yeah.
And for the teenagers and parents still, you could also, one of the things that we encourage in Wanawake, your teenager can't sit at home and watch TV the whole day. When you go to work every day, go with them and mentor them in what you're doing. For example, if you have a stall, let them come out and help serve the customers with you, you know, at your workplace. If you're laying bricks, they should be there seeing what is happening.
Where the money comes from.
Where does the money come from? For those in corporate offices, they could be office messengers. They could help and should build that close relationship where the children can go and work with their parents. If you own a business, take your child with you to your business. If you have a corporate office, the office messenger could do, or the janitor can do something, but even your child could come and clean. They could come and serve the food for them to learn the value of hard work and also keep occupied, other than watching TV and remaining home unattended to.
So basically, parents should assist the teenagers in order to really ensure that they prevent most of these teenage pregnancies and the likely effects. So now when it comes to the communities, what advice?
Maybe also before you go to the communities, parents play a very vital role in protecting children. And when we speak about parents, we're not talking about biological parents. I want to actually call out people out there. We are all parents to our neighbors' children. Because if I do not take care of my children, they might be the ones that cause the catastrophe to my neighbor's child. So let us try to go back to that old tradition where everyone is a parent to your neighbor's child. Yeah, in that respect, in trying to protect your children from becoming a danger to other people's children.
A child is raised by the community.
But also sensitize them.
Yes. We need to talk about, I like the new approach the government is taking on, they've moved away from abstinence. Yes, they do emphasize it, but now they're opening up to other avenues of prevention, especially with the young adults. We're looking at 17, 18, 19. You know, there is this new advert going on about having, is it pill plans, I think, yeah. And I loved that, the family planning advert. It's running on different media. I love the fact that we are having this conversation. We are now no longer scared of saying it's happening. It's there, so we are talking about it. That is quite good. And as parents, we should not leave out to the policymakers only. We, like Daisy said, we play a very big role. We should talk about sex. We should sensitize. Children should not hear about sex from a third party. They should first hear it from you in a home and you have a conversation.
And maybe parents should also, the good thing with social media, we like WhatsApp, we can create our own groups as parents, then we invite our family members, especially the teenagers. I know of a group that does that it would be every third term holiday. So parents of from different, maybe their friends, they would invite those with teenagers. As long as you have a teenager or someone who is even right from like, I think 10, then parents have like seminars and talk to these children in different categories. Maybe from 10 to 12, they are grouped in differently. Then maybe 13 to 15. then different people or parents talk to these different children about the different topics. Because personally, I may fear or I may not be so comfortable talking to my own child, but again, I know maybe Daisy can do so. Or the same also applies to the children. They may not really listen to the parent. They may think mommy is joking, mommy is saying. Those are things for the old people. But once they hear it from someone else, then they'll be able to pick a leaf and maybe do something, and also hear from the different, share something from the different fellow teenagers about, maybe someone may share an experience of whatever relative or someone, whatever is happening in their home. So then they will be able to make a difference and change in terms of their character or behavior at home. For instance, you talked about dressing decently. You may have a child who has such a problem, maybe because of the influence at school, but once you're home and you're trying to tell them, no, putting on something below the knees or above the knees is not right. Someone may not, a teenager, your teenager may not take it right. They may think that mommy doesn't want me to, doesn't want me to slay. Even when I'm home, she's the person who doesn't want me to go outside the gate, and at the same time I'm within. Still, I need to put on my short things. And she's saying no. But once they hear some of those things from their fellow teenagers and the repercussions, then there is a lot of impact that can be done in such instances.
Now, you guys have been talking about, we've been talking about parents, yeah? But now, my challenge I'm facing is, these days we are living the role, most of the time, children spend it at school, and the parents spend their time at work. Now, that therefore means we are shifting the burden to the schools and the teachers, yeah? Now, I'm going to ask a very sensitive question, but please, our viewers, I'm sorry, your views, everyone has their views and opinions, yeah? And I think we as the Sisters Empowerment Show, we are entitled to our opinions. So my question is it therefore viable to have sex education taught in schools? Because this has been a very hot debate. We are talking about parents playing the role of sensitizing children, but most of the time is spent by children at school. So who should play the role? What role do the schools play in ensuring that our teenagers do not get pregnant?
I think, like we had said earlier, a child is raised by the village, and the village or community has so many players in there. It's everyone's role. I think to answer your question, I would say it should be an appropriate audience or appropriate sex education. Yes, it's everyone's role to make sure a child, even a baby aged 3 or 4, should be told about bad touches. That is sex education. We're not saying that go and tell a 9-year-old how to use a condom. No, that's not what we are saying. We are saying parents, teachers, whoever is involved, let's let our children know that sex happens appropriately, looking at the age gap, the age group that you're looking at. Of course, if you're looking at an 18, 17-year-old, they already know this. You should talk about family planning. You should talk about use of a condom. But if you're looking at, let's say, a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, tell them what is sex. How does it come about? What are the effects? You know, what should you do if such and such a thing happens? You know, so it should be appropriate sex education depending on the age gap that you're looking at.
So now let me ask you, Lillian, would you be comfortable finding your child being taught or told about sex in their school?
Yeah, I would be comfortable. And it's good that I even get to know that this happens, and I will take an initiative to actually find out what is it that they are told. For instance, like if I have a maybe senior to child, and I know they have maybe sex education, one, I would invite her once in a while. Of course, not this harsh way of maybe you're in this good mood, you try to ask them, engage what happens, what is it that you're told, you know, because you also need to know whether they understand it right. Because at times they'll tell them here, maybe in a classroom, certain things or topics, but again, when they go with their peers, someone may divert the right information, and what the person will pick out, the teenager will pick out, will be something different. So you need to find out whether they also get it right, and you also emphasize that very point.
The reason I brought out that question, it was intentional, is there is a lot of focus on girls, mothers, aunties, what, to tell the teenager who is going to get pregnant about sex. But these boys who are impregnating the girls are left behind. And the only avenue are usually schools, where they get to get this sex education too. Like, you should not get yourself involved in sex because it will result into childbirth. You'll get STDs as well. You will fall out of school because they know it's only girls who fall out of school. So I think it is also a good idea, in my opinion, to ensure that we introduce sex education in our schools. I'm not actually saying that children should be told you should go and they act, you know, but telling them, you know, trying to introduce them, and they are in the know of what is actually taking place. Actually, in some schools, we have what we call these talking, what do they call them? The talking... No. These signposts that they usually put up. I'm forgetting the name. Talking signposts. Yes. These things are very good because in our homes, you cannot put up something like in your house that having sex is dangerous at this age. But schools are trying to put them up. So every time you enter a school compound, you will say, do not allow gifts from boys. And then the child will ask you, why are you telling me not to allow gifts? Yeah?
There is one I like most, which is books, not babies. It's a good one.
Yeah, so our viewers, you're still watching the Sisters Empowerment Show. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment. And above all, we welcome all your views. If you want to have a discussion with us on any topic, please, our numbers are running on the screen, and we shall welcome your ideas. We shall be happy to host you as well.
Yeah, since we've been talking about the schools, I guess these are institutions, right, that are trying to help us in prevention, ensuring that we minimize the teenage pregnancies. Of course, also the community has something to do in helping this. Maybe just briefly, what can the community do to help us in preventing teenage pregnancies? Of course, I know the prevention, there are some measures and steps. So for someone who is viewing out there, what is it that they can look out for in the communities?
I think I could go on that. There's so many things that a local council does in an area, like the LC1. The LC1 helps solve our maybe petty things that are happening in homes. But they also do awareness programs. For example, if maybe someone is lost, the areas I've lived in, if a child is lost, the LC can go around with a microphone saying so and so is lost, or we are doing this and this, maybe we are doing this road, come and help. We could also use this avenue to talk about an awareness program as an LC. If it's, for example, if we are having many numbers of teenage pregnancies in the village, this is something that the LC could look at. Then also we could, I feel like for the community, it's more about sensitization, appropriate sensitization, and also raising the child. If you're seeing the child go astray, if you're a member of the community and you see the child hanging out or entering a lodging with a man or a woman, and it's not right, or they are in a place alone waiting for someone, or they are on their phones doing something which is dubious, which appears to be dubious, you should talk to them about it or tell their parents about it and speak out against it.
I guess also reporting.
Yes.
You know, because much as we may have those prevention You know, the community may help us to report and, you know, understand, but again, it may not help us in maybe totally preventing maybe someone from getting to that level. When it comes to reporting, there are still those measures, and not to use maybe harsh or harmful means of maybe for someone who is a victim. You know, some people may end up even beating up or chasing away such a teenage person, and yet maybe if they can go through the different stages of maybe reporting, of course through the parents, maybe if it requires through the LC1, police, there are a number of things and maybe strategies that we can use.
But even where the parents may not be involved, I've had or handled cases where the communities have actually played a bigger and better role than the parents, in instances where parents, after learning that their teenagers are pregnant, they connive with the perpetrators either to extract money or for whatever reason, maybe it's a relative and they feel that they will be embarrassed and they decide not to report.
Sometimes they connive to get bride price and marry off the girl.
So it is the communities that actually raise the voices to police and social media. You hear people say, yeah, we saw the person, the accused was reported at police and nothing has been done. So because of their voices, somehow it helps in curbing teenage pregnancies.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, I'm just wondering, really, is teenage pregnancy a death sentence or what is it? You know, like our society has help our viewers to really understand this. Yes, Winnie.
I think if we look back in our history, our grandparents were having sex at 13 and 14. They were being married off early, and teenage pregnancy has been with us. It has been happening. But due to our improving as mankind, as humanity, making ourselves better, we found out that a woman having a baby early on when they're teenagers is not good for them. They're not yet fully developed, or they might miss out on the different opportunities that happen during that time. So that's why we are saying, no, not when you're a teenager. Later, you hold on, wait a bit. So it's not a death sentence because it has been around and it has been happening. But it's still happening. And it is happening now, you know. So, but it's just that we've just improved a little as mankind. We've moved on. We are getting better at how we do things. That's why we are coming out to say, no, not this. We can do better as human beings, you know. Yeah, so it's not a death sentence. It's we need to just look at what happens if we are saying that a quarter of our girls in the country are pregnant mothers, are teenage mothers. What should we do?
Not only that, most of us are products of teenage
pregnancies. What should we do? Yeah, what should a girl do if she finds out that she's pregnant? The thing we've been talking about earlier, speak out. Go to your parent, talk to a trusted friend, because some parents go off the roof when you tell them. So you could tell your auntie, you know, or you could tell a church leader if you're into church, or a teacher, a friendly teacher at school. Whatever it is, speak out to a trusted person and get help. So that is the first thing I would want to tell a teenager out there. If you're pregnant, speak out and you get help.
And when you talked about your NGO, what you do there, I want you to tell us practically what you do to these teenagers who come to your NGO and they are pregnant, because we want it now practically.
So in Wanawake, one of the first things that we do is referral system. So if you can't talk to any of these people and you come out there, you come up to us. I repeat, our number is 774-15-3300. If you reach out and tell us that, look here, I am pregnant, we do what we take you through the referral pathway. We take you through what you should do. And the first thing I've said is you report. So you've reported to Wanawake. How is Wanawake going to help you? Chances are high we are going to let your parents know what has happened to you, or your guardian, or your support system has to get to know that this is what has happened so that you may get help. The second thing that we do is helping you get medical services, because when you get pregnant, you need to attend antenatal care. We need to know whether you've not yet gotten infected with any STD. We need to know whether the baby you're carrying is okay. We need to know whether you yourself, you're okay with this, because with pregnancy, so much happens, your body changes, you need to get medical attention. So we do what we call the referral pathway, and we refer you to get medical services. The other thing we do is psychological support, because so much is happening to a young mind, a 13-year-old, 14-year-old. We also refer you to get social psychological support. This is mainly from therapists and counselors to counsel you. It's not a death sentence. You can still live your life fully, even if you've become pregnant. So we take you to a counselor. We help you go through the different options that are available to you as a soon-to-be mother. So we do that. We also report, because it's a criminal offense for a teenager to get pregnant. It's called defilement in Uganda. So, and it is punishable. So we also do what we call reporting to the police. So to the police in the area or to the police near us, we take you through that and help you go through the prosecution system. Yes, that is basically what we do.
But now, as we speak about all this, there is one thing we haven't talked about, abortion. I think as we talk about teenage pregnancy, it is important to reach out to the parents out there, to the teenagers themselves, not to encourage these teenagers to abort, because that is even deadly. The effects are actually more than the pregnancy itself. And remember that also abortion is an offense, because in my practice as a lawyer, I've come across these cases where parents are brought up with a child to answer cases of abortion. So I think, Winnie, as you do your advocacy there, as you're trying to empower these teenagers, encourage them not to think about it at any point in time. That's why I will go back to Lillian's question. It's not a death sentence. You don't need to think like, now
it's the end
of the world. Yes.
It's the end.
So I either abort this child or I abort this child. So we have to look at these other things. We have been told about the referral system, which is a very good one. In case your parents have just shared with their NGOs like
Wake Kwanza,
which you can reach out to for assistance.
For assistance, accommodation, medical services. It's not a death sentence. We are there for you. Maybe also picking up what you've said. We talked about maternal death, at the beginning, one of the effects of teenage pregnancies. The research shows that most of the people who are dying because they are aborting. So since it's a criminal offense to abort, and children are not getting this well, there are no services out there which are specializing in this, so they're doing it themselves, and we end up having a high maternal death rate because they're doing it the wrong way. So you do not have to go that way. You don't have to go into that. You can get appropriate, help if you reach out and talk through with an adult. Also talk through with the civil society like Wanawake, what we do. Yes.
Okay. So our dear viewers, you're still watching the Sisters Empowerment Show. Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe and comment. But as we go on with this topic, of course towards the end of the topic, I know some of you might say, why are we talking about it? We are passionate about it, we like it. This is something that lives with us. Yeah. My major pain that I have in my heart that I'm going to express out to you, my co-host and our guests and our viewers is, having said all this, I really feel so bad that in as much as our government is trying to bring out policies and laws, there is something I find lacking, and that is the reintegration of these victims. For example, you are done with your childbirth. Maybe organizations have helped you to give birth and not abort. What's next? we need to address our parents and these children, or guardians out there.
And the community.
How can we help these teenagers after they are done with the pregnancy? Should they go back again? Yeah.
I could pick up from that. One of the first things we should know is that a teenager, chances are high, does not know how to look after the baby that she has given birth to. So we should support this girl with information of nutritional food. We should talk to them about breastfeeding exclusively. You know, they have the time. We should talk to them about eating well so that they are able to sustain breastfeeding. We should also tell them what to do when the baby begins eating. A baby that needs a lot of proteins to grow, and the baby does not have to feed on meat that a child of 13 or 14 does not afford. And chips. Chips is not good food. You know, we should look at the different nutritional foods and tell these teenagers that eating what is it, nkg, the small fishes, silverfish, it's very highly nutritional. So
and it's
affordable.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I'm not talking about the meat, the sausages, you know, soda, Weetabix, and naan, is it called naan? And the formula. You know, a baby can survive by just breast milk. And when they begin food, if you've done it exclusively for 6 months, or if you cannot afford to breastfeed, some mothers cannot afford to breastfeed, they don't have the breast milk. We should be talking to them what to do to look after this baby. How can you increase your breast milk supply? How can you help latch a baby? You know, these are babies, they don't know how to do this. No one talks about this, you know. So we should be talking about these things, how
and
this,
not condemning them,
and not making the child lose their self-esteem. Those derogatory words shouldn't be in our vocabulary in the communities where these girls are staying. So,
in other words, we should give them hope, really.
Yes,
there is life.
That there is life. So we should teach them how to look after the babies, how to look after themselves. We should also encourage them on going back to school. You can go back to school after having a baby if they're school going.
What if they're not school going?
If they're not school going, one of the things that I think the Sister Empowerment Show is preaching is skill sets. There's so many things you can do after giving birth. You can learn how to bake, you can farm, you can do bricklaying, you can do what else? You can make
arts and crafts,
tailoring. There's so many things. There's so many things that you can do, that you can reach out of your network to do. Yeah.
So I think, our dear viewers, you get where we are coming from and why we are having this Sisters Empowerment Show. So it is at this point that I want to show you that, having told you all this, we still have a solution. So the two ladies sitting here with me, of course minus myself, have these skills empowerment lessons that they always take these teenagers and other people out there, both women and men. And I think it's at this point that Lillian and Winnie, you have to talk out, to speak out your skills that you can impart on these teenage girls after they have gone through the childbirth, because it's not a death sentence, now they have to revive. We have had many testimonies of very successful people today who say they gave birth when they were 13, but they went on either to school again or they diverted into business. So can you take us through some of the things you can take these teenage mothers after giving birth, what they can do? I know each of you has skills, and I know the Sisters Empowerment Show is going to give you one session where it's who have given birth.
Yes, with the teenage mothers, maybe there is a disclaimer that this is not to encourage. The Sisters Empowerment Show is not to encourage teenage pregnancy, but just in case it has happened, like we said, it's not really a death sentence, but there is still life, that life has to continue. There are a lot of things that you can do. Of course, first of all, you need to work with the mindset, because you cannot continue blaming yourself and living in the past. So life has to move on, and you really have to accept and say, okay, now God helped me and I moved through this from one level, I was told once you're pregnant, you've crossed over, you know.
You're an adult.
You're an adult without even any questions. So you just have to accept that this is this, and then you need to move on. So once you move on, what we need to work on with you is to first of all identify yourself. What best can you do? You know, we look at a number of things based on the environment. We're not going to say look for capital of I don't know how many millions of shillings, how many. No, you may start to do something even, and you do not need anything because you'll be staying somewhere. There will be something around you that you can do. Or it can be improving a certain skill around your home. It can be gardening, you know, flower gardening, and you're trying to improve on that, or growing certain things slowly by slowly. With time, then you can be able to build on that kind of skill that you have gained once you have attained the passion for it. And also depending on the people around you, someone may tell you, okay, I have my shop, can you help me maybe attend to my shop for this and for a given period of time as you take care of your baby, you know. So it depends, but what we want to say is that there are a number of things that we can take you through. It could be baking, it could be cleaning, it could be tailoring, a number of things, rearing chicken,
interior designing,
a number of things. So Winnie can also tell you some of the things that she can help our teenagers out there, that we need to really discover ourselves first, because I may come to your home, or I may tell someone, I need you to help me maybe on this, but you have no interest. It is just the mindset that first that you need to work on. Then later, with time, it can be monetized and you earn one or two things, and also keep yourself busy. You know, when the mind is busy, you do not have a lot to think about, and also in the network, the people you'll be with will even help you indirectly in helping you, taking you through the entire process of parenting, because now you will have moved from one area to another. So maybe Winnie can also share some of the things, maybe in detail, because for me I've just given a general kind of perspective.
I think, like Lillian, we can't finish everything, but I think we could do a session on the different things that we can do. But then also, I know the contacts are running, so you could reach out to the Sister Empowerment Show to see how you can be helped if you're a teenage mother and you're looking out to see what skill, how you can be helped to, you know, to be directed, and also to help find what you want to do with yourself. We can do that. We can walk this journey with you. These are in Wanawake Kwanza, these are some of the things that we do, working with the teenage mothers through this journey. So you reach out to us, and we could have a session on that. Yeah, we can't do it right now and finish it.
It reminds me of there is something that was running on Facebook where someone posted 5,000 shillings, 1,000, like 1,000. Then someone was asking that is the money they have. What can they do with it so that it makes more money? And I was amazed. There were over 1,000 ideas of what the 5,000 can do. So that is just 5,000, but there are a number of things you can do without even putting in any single coin or amount of money. But of course, you don't have to look at the money. You need to first of all get the knowledge, the skill, then
the right
attitude, then the rest will work out automatically.
I think that takes us back to thinking also outside the box. And trying to know that now that I've gone through this experience, where do I go from now? Think outside that vulnerability you are in. Our dear viewers, we want to thank you for tuning in to the Sisters Empowerment Show. You have been a very good audience. We know that we have contributed to you in one way or another. We are not out here to encourage teenage pregnancy, but we have been speaking about sexual abuse, teenage pregnancy, and everything. And now this was the program or show we wanted to speak out also, to try and empower parents out there who have pregnant teenagers, to speak out to the teenagers themselves, to try and empower them, to try to get out of that cocoon of vulnerability and try to realize that there is life after this problem. So I'd like to thank you all for your views, and I know that we shall be getting more views and comments about what we have said. In case you need us to speak to your children, you have a group of women there, all teenagers, we are available. Our numbers are running on the screen, and we thank you for always tuning into the Sisters Empowerment Show.
Do not forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and contact us. Thank you. Continue viewing and watching the Sisters Empowerment Show. Bye-bye.
Bye.